Today's open forum is on the question of debt for development, and we will be focusing particularly on microcredit and looking at the institutional, the ideological, programmatic elements of it, and considering some of the debates around it. A lot has been said and written on this topic, and we have a panel that brings a lot of rich experience coming from diverse backgrounds, and hopefully we will have an engrossing discussion this evening. What we propose to do is have two of our panelists followed by 2 or 3 comments, and then we have the other 2 panelists intervene, and then we open up the floor for comments and questions, and hopefully a good exchange. Right. So just before I introduce the panelists, perhaps it's in order that sort of make a few preliminary comments in terms of just framing the discussion this evening. And while I do so, I'm conscious that I'm given this title of moderator, but I would actually prefer to be more provocative rather than moderate the discussion. Because I think this is an issue on which a lot of us have positions. There are nuances to it, but it also has raised significant political controversies and debates, as it should. So, microcredit is variously been described as a panacea for poverty and a curse as well. We've seen it kind of referred to as the most effective mode of financial inclusion, and on the other side, you have a critique of the whole idea of financial inclusion itself, and whether that actually financializes social inclusion and thereby actually contributes to building amounts of debt rather than potential liberation from poverty. It's also, microcredit on the one hand is seen as the safest, cost-effective, guaranteed way of ensuring access to credit for people living in poverty. But at the same time, there is also the critique as to what conditions it comes under, questions of interest rates, questions of what Kate McLean in a very interesting paper calls the gendered female financial subject, because women are the favored target in these interventions, and raising questions about whether indeed this sort of access to credit and so on and so forth is founded in a sense on legitimizing certain patriarchal notions of risk and responsibility. Microcredit is often presented as a win-win situation because it hands over administrative controls to a large extent to communities. It's meant to keep transaction costs low and so on and so forth, but then again, the other side of it is the various kinds of costs that communities actually end up bearing. We've seen perhaps one of the most high-profile cases of failure, quote-unquote, was the case of the SKM in Andhra Pradesh in India some time ago, where we saw huge crisis, suicides, and an extraordinary kind of unraveling of social structures and networks in the context of microcredit. So it's an extraordinarily it's a complex issue, and I think what we're trying to do today is to consider it in all its different forms and embrace these controversies. And in order to do that, we have 4 panelists who bring a lot of experience with them in this area. To my extreme left, this is Samadani Kirivananya, the chairperson of Sanasa Bank for the past 4 years now, who has extensive senior management experience in the fields of participatory development, gender, microfinance and conflict resolution, has a master's degree from the University of Saskatchewan in Canada, and as head of Sanasa would definitely bring something very distinct to this discussion. Thank you for joining us this evening. Dulan Silva, your online media right, the chairperson of the Berendina Group since inception, and has been a pioneer in this sector in Sri Lanka, and holds a master's degree in business administration from Florida State University in the US, and is also an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Management Accountants UK. And I think we look forward to hearing what you have to say, given your interesting background. Then we have Dr. Ganga Tilakaratna from the Institute of Policy Studies, and at the IPS, she is Research Fellow and Head of Poverty and Social Welfare Policy Research. And her key research interests have been in the areas of poverty impact assessment, social protection, and microfinance, and she holds a PhD in development policy and management from the University of Manchester in the UK. Welcome. Then, of course, my colleague CEPA, Atisha, senior research professional, who is leading post-conflict thematic work at CEPA, and a crucial part of her work is to understand the effects of economic development interventions on people in conflict-affected contexts. Right. So that's our panel this evening. So without further ado, we can go straight into it. We have a slight change in the program. Mr. Silva will speak first, followed by Mrs. Berendina, and then we will have a short space for some comments and questions, and then we will move on to our other panelists. So I propose that each panelist take no longer than 10 minutes, so we have enough time for questions and discussion. And just to ensure that I'm very objective in my allocation of 10 minutes, I have a stopwatch here. The numbers are big. This is also a discussion on numbers as well, partly. So let's get numbers straight. So 10 minutes, and that will allow us, I think, plenty of time for discussion, and then have a back and forth. So, you go first.
Good afternoon, and ladies. I will briefly introduce myself, or my work at least. I got into this field, microfinance, in 1986, starting SEEDS program, which I think was one of the first using this practice microfinance in Sri Lanka. And then while at SEEDS, I was consulting, and I was consulting for a Dutch agency called Berendina, a family trust, and that grew. And now I'm still a consultant to the Dutch, but also the chairman of that group, which has 4 NGOs, 2 of which are in microfinance. So I have a very long history from 1986 up to now, and I have worked in more than 10-15 countries, also consulting in microfinance, and has had the opportunity to see how things differ from country to country. After saying that, since I have limited time, I'll go right to the topic. When I joined the sector, I came from the finance sector. I was a finance manager. I didn't know anything about NGOs or microfinance, and I was concerned about poverty. That's why I joined Sarvodaya and of this opportunity, and I started SEEDS. Of course, when I joined, we didn't know we were going to do microfinance, but what Dr. Ayuranga wanted was to improve the income of the society members. So after doing some research and also having the fortune to go to Bangladesh, courtesy of CARE, 3 months after joining, I saw a lot of work in BRAC, especially BRAC at that time, and ASA, also Grameen, and some other programs in Thailand, and I came back thinking that it's a great idea. At that time, we were very idealistic, just very totally non-commercial, totally grant-based, and also it was all about poverty alleviation and women's empowerment. Nothing else, period. Just these two, and of course, at that time we were lucky that we had grants to do it without charging these interests which are questionable. So that, and was also, I'm from the old school, as you can see, those days when we were taught economics, now I don't know what they teach, they used to tell us that three things are very basic for economic development: land, labor and capital. So it is obvious that capital is required, and not just the rich, not only the Vijay of this world who take billions of loans, but also the poor. Because if you don't have, if you are getting a daily wage of 500 or 1000 rupees, how do you get 25,000 rupees to repair your roof? How? You can't, because you just cost the money each day for your food, for your clothes or whatever, and you don't never get access to 25,000 rupees to repair your roof. So you go to money lender, and that time money lenders were big. I'm telling you, seriously big. Now in this country, the money lender has become very marginal. The shops and the money lender shops also was a big lender. And I remember the surveys we used to do those days. It was amazing. In the 80s, the amount of power and the control money lenders and the shops had. It has all changed. And thanks to microfinance, I think Jan Savia Trust came along in 1989, and they gave credit to the NGO sector. Sanasa got revamped thanks to her father. They reached more and more villages. Earlier, if you know, Sansa began in 1906 as an institution for the common zone, but he changed it radically, and that had a very, very wide reach. Then RRDB, Regional Development Banks came, so like that, whatever. Now, today we are in 2014, and things have changed. It has changed primarily because of the fact that one reason is grants for microfinance dried up. No one was willing to give the billions that are required. This industry today is about 70 to 80 billion. No donor is able to give grants to that extent. So there was naturally commercialization, and together with that, hopefully sustainable. And that brought good and bad. And one very, very major problem is, as far as happening in India and other countries and also here, is the high interest rates. Some of the finance companies charge 28% flat declared interest rate. That means 56% interest rate, and the effective rate is even more because they have that rate, discharge, application charge, membership, whatever, various charges. So the effective rates come to about 60% decline. And that is a serious problem for the poor. They need the money to repay the capital as well as the interest is tough. But yet, I must say, and despite that, there's a huge demand. Even for them, even for the finance company, there's a huge demand. Demand-wise, microfinance is amazing. There are people who can't virtually find money to feed, but they will take a loan to tell you. If you push hard enough, you go to the house and tell them sweet stories, or if somebody comes with some item to sell on credit, they will take. Right? They don't think of the consequence. A lot of people are now not credit shy in Sri Lanka. Everybody jump in and take in credit, and then of course eventually Andhra Pradesh type of situation can come. If there is too much of there's a lot of multiple loans. Same person is taking things. Everybody take from somebody, if or somebody are taken, and then they will take from us, from Sanasa, or from finance company. So 3-4 loans is quite the norm. I'm not saying that multiple loans are bad, but multiple loans are okay if you can repay. The total, each one is given only 30,000, taking 100,000, if you can repay, it's fine. And if you are doing it using it productively, that's fine. So interest rates is a major issue. Together with commercialization, another issue is the loan size. People now they use in some countries $1,000 is microfinance. I was fortunate to go to Latin America to study microfinance by Asia Foundation or whatever. Then, and all what we saw was average loan size $500, $1,000. While the same country, say Bolivia, there are slums and villages extremely poor, and people are having no access to credit because all the NGOs have become finance companies, MFIs, banks, and the real poor whom they served 10 years ago is not being served, while bigger boys are being served. There's nothing wrong, there's no harm. I mean, SMEs, creating employment, all that, there is a niche. Nobody is saying there is no need for bigger loans. There is, but not at the one at the expense of neglecting the poor in a country which has poor, though the previous government tried to deny that there was poor, but there is poor. So there is blocks of poor all over and needs small capital. So I think that emphasis, that's one of the major issues. Another issue is the fact that some of the same agencies push loans. They sometimes they visit the house and they canvass for loans. That's another issue. Another major issue is, since we should rush, the fact that nobody is worried about the impact of credit. They are only worried about giving the loan and taking the money back. Very little effort and time is spent in seeing whether the loan is being used. So that's very bad. I'll just run through the concerns and also tell a little bit more about Berendina's own work, how we tackle some of these issues. Then other thing is too much of stress on income generation loans. Now, when you started with income generation loan, so everybody is still income generation. So they will show the same khade for 5,000 rupee loan and they will show the same khade of 100,000 rupee loan, they will still be. The khade is still the same, it has not grown. The loan has grown, but small shop is still the same. And because they need money for something else, they are using the loan. They may use it to build bill, but they call it income generation loan, right? So that is, I'll come to some other solutions also, if I given time. The other is the government as usual. Government's programs are disaster. Samruddhi and Divinaguma is the biggest microfinance program in the country. Has over 900,000 clients, and it's absolute disaster because it's not transparent. Nobody knows what the repayment rates are. It's subsidized by 1 billion rupees a year on the treasury, for the salaries, and it's complete chaos. So nobody knows. I mean, somebody should seriously take hold of that and do something about it. Then other is lack of regulations. We have had draft regulations for the last 6 years. We still don't have it. This government, Jahaparana, has now put it on the web and is asking us to give feedback. And so therefore there is some hope. Then absence of a CRIP. That's now this multiple loans issue, we need a CRIP. So solutions that I can suggest are one, which is unfortunate, which this government has put interest rate cap. The budget said nobody should give microfinance loans more than 20% flat, which is 40%, which is improvement on 60%. So 40% is improvement on 60%. So that's at least some earlier we were against it, but now I think there's no other way to control the high interest rate. Restructuring Samruddhi, etc. Impact. Now I said about impact. Now we are not a minimalist organization. We do credit plus, we do credit and training. We give a coupon, 1,000 rupees, and we give tell the borrower, you can use this for training. Business training, technical training, motivation training, there's a range of training. If they don't want it, they can give the coupon back at the end of the loan period and we will give them the cash. It's not forced. It's not forced, nor is it free. Then more detailed market studies to find what type of loans the poor want. Now we don't give only income there, we give loans for house repairs, we give loans for emergency loans for health, education, stuff like that. Then of course introducing regulations, government I think hopefully it will come through. And the other is of course on a CRIP, the network is working on it and we hope that others will also join and the CRIP will also be a reality soon. Thank you very much.